it's time for the clash. Turmoil continues within the Conservative Party as right-wing Tories are reportedly plotting to replace the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, or maybe Conservative Tories are planning to replace him for Penny Mordaunt. That's in a bid to avoid catastrophic losses in the polls. I'm not sure that can be avoided. Should their plot become a success, this could mean a fourth leader. Is it fourth in just 5 years? I feel like it's been 5. I'm joined now by the Director of Climate Media Coalition, Donnachadh McCarthy, and also Reform UK Deputy Leader Ben Habib. Ben Habib, starting with you.
Yeah, so the last chance saloon that the Conservative Party had to save itself was when they deposed Boris Johnson. And they had to get it right at that point, because they had to implement policies that would bring inflation under control, that would promote private enterprise, that would raise wages, that would put more money in people's back pockets, so the cost of living crisis could be controlled. That was the moment. And people trash Liz Truss, but actually she had a vision for definite change, and change towards a conservative set of principles. What Rishi did was come in and say, I'm going to fix everything that's broken, but I'm going to do it by changing absolutely nothing about the way the Conservative Party is governed over the last few years. And he did all the same things that they've done for the last, I don't know, whatever number of years they've been in office, which is basically a left-of-centre form of government. State borrowing, state intervention, high taxation, in a big state, as I say, a highly regulated state. For example, he did say that he would get rid of the 4,800 EU regulations on our statute books within 100 days of being made Prime Minister. And he didn't do it. If he'd made that step, if he deregulated the economy, taken the pressure off private enterprise and the individuals, we might now be in a very different place. He didn't do it. They are toast. There's nothing. Putting Penny Mordaunt in charge, I agree, is putting an empty vessel in charge. They've had it.
Donnachadh McCarthy.
Yeah, well, where I agree with Ben is it's too late to change. Nothing, whether they change their policies or whether they change the leader, they are going to lose. But the problem that the party has is that majority of British public vote actually supports progressive parties. Something like 2/3 of the public does. Only 33% support the right-wing parties. And what's now happened is the two right-wing parties...
Where did you get that information from?
The latest polling.
What latest polling? Whose latest polling?
The compendium of them. The average Labour polling is around 44%. The average Lib Dem is 11-12%. The average Green is 6%. And the average SNP and Plaid is another 2-3%.
But that
adds up to around 66%. So what's happened is that the Tories, if they pitch to the right to implement Ben's far right policy.
Hold on.
I know. Relax. Relax.
Excuse me, Donnachadh, stop.
Far right policies.
Hang on. You said far right policies. Yes. I will stop you there. Ben, you can come back for a second, because he said you have far right policies.
Well, I'd like to know what policy it is that we hold that is far right.
Okay,
Give me one example.
Which far right policy?
He just said we need to get rid of 4,000 regulations,
so
which protect...
Is that far right?
Yes, far right don't want to protect the environment. They want to allow the economy to roar on the back of a destroyed environment. So, for example, Brexit. The Tory party allowed the freedom of Brexit to allow more sewage in our rivers, to allow more pesticides in our seas. Those are the regulations that Ben wants to turn up. That's far right.
Well, if you're complaining about sewage and water, that's taken place while those regulations have been in place. There is no shortage of regulations in this country. What we have is a shortage of enforcement, and the water companies are completely broken. They're mini monopolies where chief executives can get away with blue murder. I'm using a Turner phrase, a blue murder, because they're not regulated properly. You can't regulate mini monopolies properly. But I just want to pick you up on one more thing, if I may. You say that the majority of people want progressive liberal policies in this country. That is not right. The polling to which you refer is those people who will vote. The vast majority, the silent majority, are sitting on their hands. The small C Conservatives, who are the biggest majority, in my view, in this country, are sitting on their hands because they've got no one to vote for at the moment. Reform UK has to get in front of them.
Hold on. I knew this would end up being part party political broadcast. But the point is, though, this is based on people who do vote, and if they don't vote, then they.
But our challenge is to get them out to vote.
So if you want to include non-voters, then that's a different debate. But the other point if you look at the opinion polling, is that, for example, on issues like climate, the vast majority of the British public supports climate action. The vast majority of the public supports action on cheaper public transport. But the vast majority of the public supports safer roads. And what's happened in response to pressure from reform is, and the mainstream media, billionaire media, is the Tories are taking right, and they're moving policies away from where the public wants. So, for example, Mark Harper today announced a policy: you can't drive at 30 miles per hour outside a school, but you can speed at 30 miles per hour all the way from home to the school. So we can kill kids on the way to school, but not outside.
Well, listen, no, hold on. Hang on,
stop. Limits and
stop.
This is crazy.
He's not saying you can kill kids on the way to school.
Yeah, I know.
I've got to stop you.
That's 30 miles per hour.
This is what we call catastrophising. He's just saying that outside the school, rather than 20 miles per hour, which actually, if you're driving a petrol or diesel car, would probably mean you're giving off more emissions because you're going more slowly. And so the people within that environment will probably be breathing in more of those fumes. Actually, they should drive slightly more quickly to get them out of that. But if you're near a school, as we know, electric cars and other vehicles are much heavier. I would suggest that 20 miles an hour would be far safer.
Yeah.
Nobody would argue with that. But it's unreasonable to expect people to drive 20 miles an hour for a long period of time. It's not on.
Therefore, what was happening here is the policy of 20 miles per hour is supported by a majority of the public.
But how do you say that?
Looking at the polling.
No, well, I don't know what polling you're looking at.
On cycling issues.
Can I just tell you, Donnachadh,
safely.
Be quiet. Can I just tell you, actually, the government are overriding a lot of these LTNs, especially after what happened with Sadiq Khan, these 20 miles an hour, and they're checking that councils aren't just installing them to make money off motorists, which is what is happening. Yes. So that's a reality. Yeah, so for you to say that the majority of people are supporting them is absolute rubbish.
I read the press release, Nana.
I'm glad you did. So did I.
The press release, but Mark Harper today produced a policy on LTNs. And do you know what the report says?
Briefly.
If you look at all the areas where the LTNs are put in, London and the other cities, it's a 2-to-1 majority.
Can we get back to the
supports
subject?
Safer roads and LTNs.
Yeah, we all two safer roads, but not LTNs.
But you said you've hit the nail on the head, because all the debate, you say two-thirds of the majority support climate action, and therefore we must have net zero and economically emasculate ourselves. No. That is not the next step. Just because we all want to preserve the planet doesn't mean we all have to economically emasculate ourselves. Right. And that's where Reform UK comes in.
Hang on, don't go back to the party political broadcast. Stop yourself
it's not a party political broadcast.
It always ends with
I've been accused of being far right.
Stop you.
It is not far right to wish to have a prosperous economy.
Listen, hold on. So let's get back to the point of the question, which was, I'm going to ask you yes or no, changing the leader, Penny Mordaunt.
Absolutely, to change the leader would make absolutely no difference, and Penny Mordaunt would be hopeless as a leader.
Insanity. The public would laugh at them.
It's insanity. They should get on with just running the country, for goodness sake, even though they're running it to the ground